And while the flash of our beginning has not yet traveled the light years into distance, has not yet been seen by planets deep within the other galaxies, we will disappear into the blackness of the space from which we came, destroyed as we began in a burst of gas and fire. The heavens are still and cold once more. In all the immensity of our universe and the galaxies beyond, the Earth will not be missed. Through the infinite reaches of space, the problems of man seem trivial and naive indeed, and man, existing alone, seems himself an episode of little consequence.
Greetings, fellow Earth babies, and welcome to Post-Punk Heartstrings. I'm Jimmy James S. Butler, and you just heard a little part of the planetarium scene. And then you heard another little part of the planetarium scene. The former brought to you by Rebel Without a Cause, and the second part brought to you by The Ocean Blue. And those of you who are fans of The Ocean Blue will probably get it. If you're not, well, welcome to the show, because I have invited Jamie Harmon back to talk with me about the Ocean Blue release, Cerulean. Jamie and I sat down and had a really wonderful and very long conversation about this album. So I have broken it up into two separate episodes, the first of which you are hearing right now. I usually try to keep my intros short, but I do want to share a little bit about what I'm interested in to help you get to know me a little better. Just this week, I found out about a wonderful documentary on the lead singer from Men at Work. And I always thought that Men at Work was a very underrated band. I would love to cover one of their albums at some point. But the lead singer, Colin Hay, there's a documentary about his life called Waiting for My Real Life. And I heard about the documentary when Rob Burks, a friend on Facebook, posted the album artwork from Men at Work, Business as Usual, their debut album. And then there was a conversation that took place in the comments, and Rob Burks asked Chris Taylor if he had seen the documentary. So I was immediately interested, and Chris Taylor told me that the title of it was Waiting for My Real Life, and I immediately went and searched it up on Roku, and it can be found for free on a number of different providers, Amazon Prime, Crackle, I believe I watched it on Vudu, and I can't recommend enough that you go check this out. Even if you're not a huge Men at Work fan, it was such a touching documentary and really inspirational and really down to earth. And it really flips on its head what rock stardom, fame, fortune, and success actually means, and where you find your joy and your creativity and your purpose. It was really touching to me, and I just can't recommend enough that you guys go and check it out. I'll say a few things on the back end of the episode as well, but the only other thing I would say up front is that The Ocean Blue is one of my absolutely favorite bands, and I would love to get a chance to talk to David Shezel. And I've reached out to him and haven't received an answer yet, but I know that when you reach out sometimes on social media, it doesn't even get through to the person right away, or if ever. So I'm hoping to hear back from him, because I feel like I have a lot of really interesting questions that you listeners would be interested in hearing the answers to. So I will keep trying. One of the things that I have learned with this podcast is it never hurts to ask. I'm trying to push myself out of my comfort zone as much as I can and reach out to people. And the worst that they can say is nothing. Not no, but nothing. And I have got a lot of nothing when I've reached out to various artists. but that's okay. I respect their right to not say anything because I know that a lot of people get reached out to a lot. And if you grant one, it's kind of like a slippery slope. Why did you grant this interview but not grant another interview? But I'm not going to go off on that tangent too far. Only to say that I am constantly reaching out to different artists and trying to get them. And sometimes I'm successful and sometimes I'm not. And I'm going to keep trying. Back to the Ocean Blue, one of my favorite bands. The first time I heard Ballerina Out of Control on 120 Minutes way back in 1991, I was smitten with the band and sought out everything I can find, and I have followed them ever since. I've seen them a couple of times in concert. I'm hoping to see them many, many more times. And thank you for joining Jamie and I as we talk through each track on Cerulean. Okay. We're recording now. And as I was saying, I don't want to miss any of your golden banter. So I'm going to get this recording going. And I didn't want to miss the comments about the appropriateness of my background, which I didn't even think about. It's like a spacey background.
Yeah.
And it's a spacey album.
It is. It very much is. Underwater, spacey. Yeah.
Underwater. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Somebody's been taking notes and somebody's jotted some things down. Okay. So we're talking about the Ocean Blue Cerulean. And for people who don't know, I mean, you've been on a couple episodes and some really good ones. I've gotten some good feedback, especially this last one on the police synchronicity. I got some good feedback from listeners on it. But yeah, Jamie Harmon. And I always have to pause. I pause after Jamie because I got to get the last name right. Because
I know. I've had so many.
So you're right. So Jamie Harmon. I believe you said that you were not familiar with this album.
No,
right?
I'm really happy you introduced me to this band. I really like them.
Yeah, I thought you would. Thank you for being up for exploring a new album that you haven't heard and a new band that you haven't heard, right? So I'll just do a little intro of the band. The Ocean Blue is from Hershey, Pennsylvania. Probably most of the people that will listen to this will know that. And they came out in the very late 80s. When we were in college, and they signed onto Sire Records, which at the time was like one of the record labels that had all the cool bands. They started in junior high, so they're one of those bands that started playing in clubs and stuff like that, but they were like sequestered to the dressing room. And and so that they were in their early to late teens, and so then when they signed on to Sire, they were ranging from 18 to 20, and some of their favorite bands were Echo and the Bunnymen, The Cure, Depeche Mode, The Mighty Lemon Drops, and all those bands are on that label. So imagine getting courted and signed to Sire Records, and a lot of your idols, and bands you listen to all the time are on there.
That's amazing.
So Dave Schelzel is the lead singer, plays guitar. Steve Lau was on keyboards. Rob Minnig, maybe that's it. Drums and other voices, and then Bobby Minton was bass. And so, of course, I'm most familiar with David Schelzel because he's kind of been there the whole time, and some of the members have changed, and he's the lead singer. So, usually they're on the interviews and on the videos and stuff like that.
They had one guy at one point that was playing the saxophone. I saw.
Yeah, that was, I believe, there wasn't saxophone on this album, but the first album, that was Steve Lau, I believe.
Okay.
Who did keyboards on Cerulean, which is the album we're going to talk about. Yeah, and he ended up leaving the band partly because of that. Artistic differences and stylistic differences. And some of the reading I did said that the first album, which I believe was just self-titled, called The Ocean Blue, was more of a group effort. Okay. And
wasn't it like
so there was
the Ocean Blue?
Well, there's one called See the Ocean Blue. It might have been called So that's a later one, but so there was sax, and it was more of a group thing, and it was really good. The first album's really good, but then the thing I read said that David pretty much made up all the demos himself, and then brought them to the band and said, "Okay, here's what we're gonna do." and he was more leaning towards more guitar stuff. I don't believe there's any sax on this album. There's a lot of synth, which is awesome. It's great.
Yeah, it's really basic. I mean, I don't know if that's the right word. Musically, it's real basic and simple, and a lot of them sound the same, which is, I mean, it's very cohesive that way. It's not like that Synchronicity album where it's like, what are these doing on the same album? So they all melded well together, I thought.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I understand what you're saying as far as the like simplicity stuff. They have all the same elements, kind of working together,
Yeah.
but it's very simple and you can pick them out. It's easy to pick out all
Mhm.
the different things.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
there's some layered guitars, but that they're layered
Mhm.
guitars, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So the Ocean Blue has sort of a history of naming their albums different variations of blue or the ocean, mostly
Yeah.
blue. So this album's called Cerulean, which is like a deep sky blue color.
Hence your background.
Hence my background, my spacey blue. Oh, and this album came out in 1991, February of 1991. I vividly remember when this came out, and I have a story about it because Matt, and I'll never remember his last name, but he was the guy I think that was from your hometown.
Oh, Matt Favre.
Was he? He was from your hometown,
He
correct?
was from my aunt's hometown. I ended up living in town for years, but yeah. Mhm.
Okay, but he came to school, right?
Yep. Yep. He was
To
there first.
SBU, yeah,
Yep.
Southwest Baptist.
Mhm.
And I remember he was always listening to new bands and finding new
Oh yeah.
bands and stuff like that.
Yep.
And
He was
you,
big Echo and the Bunnymen fan.
yeah,
So
yeah. And you told me, oh yeah, he's got a new band he's listening to called Ned's Atomic Dustbin. And and I was like, okay, I got to figure out who this is. So I remember I went home on a weekend and I was up late, I believe, on a Friday, and 120 Minutes on MTV came on, and they were playing Ned's Atomic Dustbin. So I was like, oh, I gotta listen to this. Really liked it. But then it followed up with one of the songs from this album, Ballerina Out of Control.
yeah, that was the one that was a little bit commercial that got some attention.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of my introduction to this. And it would have been
funny.
right after this came out.
And that's right when I came to SBU.
Thank you, because you were responsible. And
That is ironic. That is
and
funny.
thank Matt.
I did not
But-
remember that. I had to tell him.
And then afterwards, I heard some of their songs on the Southwest Missouri College radio from Springfield that I could get in the room sometimes
Yeah.
and in Bolivar.
Yeah.
They played some of the songs as well. So their influences, which are pretty obvious in the music, I think, are the Smiths, the Chameleons, Echo and the Bunnymen, New Order, maybe not as much New Order, but there's some synths in there. And David was very influenced by the Cocktail Twins. They don't really sound like the Cocktail Twins, but definitely the Smiths and Echo and the Bunnymen, I think, can be heard in their music and their style.
Yeah, I could hear some like REM-ish stuff to me too.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that because I didn't write that down. But in a lot of stuff I read and heard, like he said, they were very influenced by REM as well.
Well, and that makes sense too because Michael Stipe was a poet as well. So I mean, you know, like you said, they're very poetic, and they are.
He mentioned in, I don't remember whether something I read or watched, but he said that he met Michael Stipe. I think it was an audio interview because they asked, did you end up meeting any of the, these people in these bands that you signed to their same label? He's like, Michael Stipe's the only one I ever met, really.
Wow.
And he said he was the nicest guy. He said he was so nice. So that's pretty cool.
Sense.
And that's nice to meet somebody you idolize, sort of, and have them be really nice.
Experience.
Yeah, he said it was after a concert. Michael Stipe came, over to their bus or trailer or whatever it was, and wanted to meet him. And he said there were all sorts of fans surrounding David Chelsel asking for autographs, and he's like, Michael Stipe's standing right here. Like, why are you asking me for autographs? But anyway, I thought that was really cool. So their genre is classified as indie pop, dream pop, and jangle pop. And I think I always focus in on the dream pop. Jangle pop.
What is
which kind of REM was kind of a jangle type band. Okay. I wouldn't call it pop.
No,
I really don't like pop in any of them. But,
pop indicates what's currently cool, and that's not REM at all. I mean, were they mainstream for a while? Yeah, they were, and everybody knows some of their songs, but that's not their persona or anything like that. Definitely not. Underground is what I consider them. So I don't.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I always kind of shy away from when I see the pop. I don't really care for that too much.
One reviewer called them Muzak that rocks. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, and maybe that's why they have pop on there, because it's more positive or uplifting sounding or something, and mellow. I like that better though than pop. That's good. Something interesting, and I already knew this. I think I read about them early on in some of the Christian magazines at the time, but it says while the band was comprised of Christians, they never wore their faith on their collective sleeves, preferring to let the music speak for itself. This resulted in effectively dropping subtle hints here and there. Band members have stated in interviews that they never liked the commercialization of faith-based art. Yet their Christian worldview does sneak into their music on regular occasions, much like how J.R.R. Tolkien's Catholic faith made regular appearances in The Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
Even though it's essentially a pagan story. That's a quote from Indie Vision Music. I don't know that I'd call it a pagan story necessarily.
Pagan story. Interesting.
I guess yeah. But that was Indie Vision Music. That was their quote. But I thought that was interesting. And you might have saw some. Did you see any of these sort of spiritual or Christian threads? Okay.
The planetarium scene. I was like, that's pretty nice. So
absolutely. We got some stuff to talk about on that one.
Yeah.
I think that's all I had in the way of introduction, unless you have something you'd like to say. I mean, I guess I'd like to hear just your overall impression since you've just been introduced to it, and whatever else you might want to say.
Yeah, I was trying really hard not to let the title of the album and the name of the band influence me, but after listening several times through all the songs, I was like, okay, my overall impression is very underwater sounding. So like, what was the middle one that you said? The dream pop or whatever, but
dream pop.
Yeah, it does have that like floating, like floating through space, floating underwater, whatever. It's very soothing overall. And I said it very 80s to me. I watched a couple of the videos just to get an idea of what they look like. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is 80s. I mean, I know they came out, I mean, they were more 90s, but they were very influenced by the 80s. I already said the REM thing, a couple of the songs, like really Cerulean, the song Cerulean, that was very REM. I was like, wow, I can hear him a lot in that one. I also said some of it just brings to mind West End Girls, that song, that band, that song.
Yeah, the Pet Shop Boys.
Pet Shop Boys.
I've seen the Ocean Blue twice, and the first time I saw them.
You saw them in concert?
I saw them twice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the first time was in Chicago, and a lot of times for their encores, they'll do covers. Oh, and so they did West End Girls was
oh my gosh, that is great. That's perfect because that's on Mercury. No, not even on Mercury. Just at the top, I put West End Girls, and then I put Spandau Ballet.
Just interesting.
Fluid, melodic, So I really feel like overall the songs, like I said, very simple, very similar to each other, but enough different that there's different things that popped out of each one of them. Most of them. There's a couple of them that I'm like, But what was funny was looking at some of the reviews. One guy said, yeah, this is just a filler. And I'm like, that is so funny because I put down just a filler.
Just a filler.
We had the exact same opinion about that.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
Not bad.
There's definitely some filler type songs. I'll concede that for sure. But it was fun digging into these a little bit. It seems like most of the bands I end up trying to cover on here, like you go to the websites that have the song meanings and there's nothing.
Yeah.
Now the Police, there was a little bit more because they're super popular, right? But there wasn't much.
I couldn't even find the lyrics to "Falling Through the Ice." Did you find the lyrics to that?
There aren't any. It's all instrumental, so you will not find it.
God, Jamie, what is my problem?
The only lyric you'll find is the title.
There you go. And that's what their titles are great. I mean, some of them were even like I've sung too many songs to the crowd that didn't want to hear, and I'm listening, and I'm like, that's longer than the song is.
Right.
Have you ever seen the movie Music and Lyrics? It's
yes. I'm
Hugh Grant and Drew Barrymore.
Yes.
Hugh Grant.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, he's like a pop singer. She's a writer.
Yes.
That's so
and
great.
she's like, you're the dessert or you're the meal or whatever. And they're talking about. He said, I can't do lyrics. I just do the music. And she's like, but that's so important too. And I've always leaned more towards the lyrics. And I'm not saying they're not good musicians. They are, but they're not complicated musicians. So it's not like you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that was just an amazing riff or whatever. But when you read their lyrics, it's like, oh, that's where they're strong. I mean, they're just, lyrics they're very simple and they repeat a lot, but they have just some great lines that I'm like, wow, you guys are poetic, very poetic. So
and I think they were big fans of the Smiths, and Morrissey was very very lyrical and very good at that. So I think they maybe took some cues from that, and that was important to David to do that. It was you were saying it's very simple. I mean, even his singing is very simple. I didn't realize how simple it is till I started investigating and reading and listening through these and listening to him talk about it. And he talked about how he's not that strong or great of a singer. And I'm like, wait a minute, I love his voice though.
Yeah.
It's so like comforting. It's at that register that's, for me personally, is very like soothing. But it's true, he does not range.
No, he doesn't have
at
one.
all.
One reviewer said that they said he doesn't have a great range. He's not like a great singer as far as that goes. Yeah. He's pretty much one note, and you can hear that. That's why the songs all sound the same, because they're real basic instruments, and his voice is the same on every song. And he has a higher voice. And he, on a couple of songs, he tries to go a little bit lower octave, and he's okay with that, but just not very strong with that. So his voice is right there, like a young boy before his voice changes completely. That's his home, and it's beautiful. I mean, that's ideal. So he does well with it.
Yeah, it works. It's just, but it definitely is, like you said, it's a very narrow range, and he always stays in it. And I guess that's good. I mean, I guess he should, if that's what he can do. But he realizes
that's probably why they weren't so well known and popular for long, because people like difference and stuff, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. That and I think there was a lot with the timing, because in those early 90s, grunge came in.
Yeah.
And grunge was
not grunge.
I was talking to one of the new friends I met through this podcast. His name's Jim Anderson, and he makes music under the name Airedale. That's his project name. But we were talking, and I was like, I was not a huge grunge fan. I liked some of it, but I just wasn't a huge fan. I didn't realize until I started thinking about it how grunge was very produced. It was very produced sound.
Oh, yeah.
So it was kind of weird, because it was its persona was very raw. Yeah. Yes. But when,
Nirvana
what was played on the radio.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying they're bad. I really liked their second album, like some of the like Heart-Shaped Box and stuff like that was where it got into more stuff that I really enjoyed.
Yeah. And a lot of people said that was part of Kurt Cobain's angst, and what led to his suicide was that he wanted to be, anti-establishment, and he was majorly a part of the establishment against his will.
Well, imagine how fast and quick they blew up. I mean, for anyone to be able to handle something like that, it's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
And I'm sure their sound before they got with the record company stuff, it probably was much less produced and, more raw and real. So more punky, on that level of, of feeling. But we're going off on a tangent now.
Well, and Ocean Blue coming out during that time, they weren't angry. And so it's, they didn't have that.
You don't fit in here, boys.
Yeah. Why aren't you angry? Well, some of the videos too, the lead guy had the bowl cut. I mean,
he did. He so had the bowl.
The sweater vest. And I'm like, I can't imagine why you guys weren't popular.
There should have, on the genre stuff, there should be nerd rock.
There you go.
Nerd. I'll give them nerd pop, whatever. I don't.
Nerd.
But it's so bold. Such a bowl cut. Yeah. But anyway, I think the timing was a big part of, why they didn't gain in popularity and kind of stay that way. It's interesting, like a lot of stuff I listened to and read about David, he always had like sort of a long view of his life. He was like, even then, I was like, okay, I had graduated from college. And even then I was thinking, okay, so, how long will I do this? Because I might want to go back to school. And he did. He became a lawyer.
Oh,
so
wow.
It reminds me of me and you, sort of, with our INFJ. Like we do a lot of different things, and stuff like that. My kids call it well-rounded, which I took as a compliment.
That's what my mom calls it too.
Did you even think of yourself that way before?
No.
I didn't either.
No.
And my kids, like a couple months ago, one of my daughters was like, yeah, you're the most well-rounded in our family, I think. And I'm like, really?
Wow.
Oh yeah, you do this, you have this, you do this, you do focus on some things, but you have all these different things you do and you have a part of, and you're not like tied to any one where you're going to be, if that goes away, I have nothing. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. I never thought about it though.
Yeah. My mom always said that's a very Catholic sense. And she's like, not the big C Catholic. I'm like, no, Mom, I would never.
Right, gotcha. Yeah.
But she's always said that about me, and I didn't really know that was a positive thing. I just felt like it was. I'm a dabbler, and
I think it is positive, though.
I guess so. Yeah, at this age, I feel like it is.
It's like anything. Everything has a shadow side. negative side to it.
Yeah.
But, and we feel the negative part of it, right? Like, I'm not really good, super good at anything, right?
Yep, exactly.
I'm pretty good at a lot of different things. You know?
Every
once in a while I hit one out of the park, but
I can fake it really well in a lot
ask me to do it
scenarios.
Again. Yeah, a lot of it's faking, but
that doesn't go well when you're a teenager. I think that's why it became so easy for me, that
that's right.
Everybody had their niche and I didn't. I'm like, oh, I like that. Yeah. Oh no, I like that too. Oh yeah, that too. And they're like, would you settle? And I'm like,
and they want to put you in it. Yeah, they want to put you in a niche. I'm guessing you were well liked by most groups. Because
I had friends in every group.
So was I. Same thing. So it must be that something to do with that, the personality of that.
Yeah.
So, but David, the lead singer, said that he was always like that. He wasn't ever like, oh, the music is all there is, and I'm just going to focus on that all the way. So that might be part of the reason too, because I think there came a time when they were like, okay, do we want to keep going, or do we want to, so a lot of different factors, but whatever the case may be. They're making music now still, so that's good.
Oh, good. And I think that's what I was going to say. They should, because there was a song, Marigold. I was coming back with my son tonight from getting our haircut. He was playing his music, of course, because he can only do that when he's with me. Because when he's with Derek, we listen to Derek's music. And so I'm like, yeah, you can play your music. So he's playing his music, and Girl in Red, it's a band. We Fell in Love in October. That song was on. And I said, oh, that sounds like the band I'm listening to right now that I'm doing the podcast with Sting tonight. And he's like, no, it doesn't. I'm like, yes, it does. You don't know the band. And
don't insult me by saying that.
Yeah. He's like, what are you talking about? But I mean, we do like a lot of the same music, my son and I. And I was like, they should be making music now, because they would be really popular, because he's 15 and a lot of his songs sound like that. And I was like, they sound just like that. So I'm glad they're still making music. They're the 80s pop, we just want to dance. That's gone, at least mostly.
Yeah, I would agree.
Mostly. Yeah. So I was like, wow, they would be really it right now. So maybe they'll have a resurgence. Who knows?
Just that they're still even doing it for, art for art's sake is cool, that they're enjoying it, right?
Yeah, it's great.
One of my favorite songs by The Ocean Blue is the album opener. It's called Breezing Up. You're just new to all this. So, I've just got these songs embedded,
Yeah.
So this song is really, really cool. The music feels like what the song's about, which I think is really cool. I was trying to think of the term, and I was like, okay, so in English, it's automatopoeia or whatever. Like
Onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia, excuse me.
Yeah.
Onomatopoeia, where, like buzz, like where it said the word sounds like what it is, right? And I was like, there must be a word like that for music, because that's what this is. So I looked it up and did some research.
Ooh,
so I put, the music feels like waves and sprays of water, and you're kind of, and like you're on these waves. And you can kind of feel the boat climbing the waves during part of the song and coming back down. And I looked it up, and it's called word painting, also known as tone painting or text painting. It's the musical technique of composing music that reflects the literal meaning of a song's lyrics or story elements.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
And I know, that's the first time I've discovered this, so I'm so excited. And it seems weird that it's called word painting. Or text painting or tone painting, because none of those give the idea of music, like if you just said them, but that's what it specifically is. And so I was just really excited about that when I read that, because I'm a nerd. And so
I love that connection that you said that, because my first note about it is this written about Homer's painting titled Breezing Up. Homer, very famous painter, has a painting called Breezing Up, and it comes up when you look it up, and it's a guy and his kids in a boat, but you can't really tell, And I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if he wrote it about the paint, if he saw the painting and that inspired him.
That 100% was an influence, I can guarantee you.
Okay.
Did I tell you that he writes a lot about poems and paintings and stuff like that?
Yes.
And he said that. And so I didn't even realize that. That's a cool find. All this time, I didn't know that. So there's a Homer painting called Breezing Up.
Breezing Up. Yep.
He said he writes a lot of his songs about poems or paintings.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Another one of the things I dabble in is the art.
It's really cool. I think he takes those things, and then they inspire him, and then he kind of makes them into something else as well. His own.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this song is about life.
Yeah.
And kind of the album is too. I mean, it's almost like we're starting out. We're in the sailboat, I'm here with all my friends. And he's like, that beyond is the shoreline, and that's where it ends. Some of the reviews interpreted it differently than I do, but I kind of look at that as, okay, you're on this journey in this boat, the shoreline, that's like, the end of life or the afterlife or whatever. That's beyond what we're, our journey right now, which I think is reflected in some of the other songs too, that we'll talk about. But I don't know, I thought this was really cool. It talks about being high and dry.
That's my favorite line.
I love that so much. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, like safe in this camaraderie of friends in our world, like our immediate world that surrounds us, in the midst of all these waves, and on this journey. So I just thought that was so cool.
And again, if you want to look for biblical references, I mean, Jesus in the boat with the disciples and calming the storm, and there's just a lot of allegory that you could put in there. But I really prefer that he saw that painting and did it off.
I love that. I guarantee you that's what happened. That was what inspired the song for sure.
See, now I want to get like a copy of that painting, and I want to put the lyrics over it, like superimposed over it, and have that up. I would love that.
Yes. That sounds so awesome. Yeah, that sounds cool. Do you have anything else on that song? I just love the song. So
I thought it was a great start.
It just comes right in with the dreamy, floating, you got the water thing.
You're on the water, yep.
They're in the boat above the water, but it still has that underwater feel, right?
Yeah. The ocean is so unpredictable. So
right. Yeah. Which comes up again later.
Yes.
So then we go into Cerulean, which I think was their first single from this album. I have comments.
It had the reference to raining 40 days and 40 nights. And I'm like, okay,
there's a biblical reference. One of the commenters that I read said that this was about a relationship and the difficulties or whatever. And I'm like, really? I don't know. Like,
get that from it.
The monotony of a relationship.
Oh, okay.
That's what it said, which I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. One note I wrote was, I'm trying to see if this was a quote or something I wrote, but I'll read it. Okay, so overall, Cerulean lends itself to interpretations of feeling trapped in a repetitive cycle and longing for something different. Okay, that was a quote. The desire for change and breaking free from constraints may be central themes explored within the song. Cerulean appears to convey a sense of longing and frustration within a relationship. The lyrics depict the protagonist being surrounded by blue skies and white clouds, which are typically associated with serenity, but there's an underlying tone of dissatisfaction.
And then it has gray clouds later.
That's not my interpretation, but that's was.
It sounds like they're trying to apply the grunge feeling to this song.
Maybe so. I didn't think about that.
I thought his voice on Blue Skies, those words and the chorus that's why I put down REM. I'm like,
Yeah,
when
I could
he
hear
sings
that.
Blue Skies, I'm like, that's Michael Stipe.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So.
could hear that for sure. I saw this more of a, I don't know, maybe it's just a feeling of the music, but I think it's in the lyrics as well. Like I felt positive, like a positive feeling from this song.
Yeah.
And so the blue skies being positive, like blue skies come down on me, gray clouds are far away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How is that?
I don't understand all of it. I sought it for days on days. I sought it for 6 weeks or so. But if you look at 6 weeks, that's approximately 40 days. Mm-hmm. So I think his blue skies, he's been seeking for 40 days. So there's that reference to Noah's Ark again.
Yeah.
Right.
Again. Yeah. Yeah. Waiting for
and I'm sure it can be metaphorical about life too. Like we go through, times of gray skies and rain, and we're really, holding out for those blue skies, but here come the blue skies. They're coming down on me. I mean, that's more what I see it as, a metaphor for, going through hard times and stuff like that in this life journey. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe that's too simplistic of a metaphor, but.
Well, I don't think that he was trying to be complicated. I really didn't get that from him. I mean, some of the lyrics, I wasn't sure exactly what he was going for, but I don't feel like he was like, try to figure it out. I mean, that just doesn't feel like that. This band doesn't feel like that to me. So,
did you have any thoughts on when it says, be careful what you say? You said that yesterday.
Again, be careful what you, I heard, oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little mouth, what you say. That's what, because, with kids, I'm like that go back for me. So,
yeah, I'm not sure what that means within the context of the song, but
I don't know. I don't know.
Did you like this one? Was this a filler or did you like it?
No, I liked this one.
This was really good.
Even the ones that were fillers, I felt like
they were still
fillers. Yeah, songs, they still kept you engaged on it. So,
and one of the things I'll say on this one is all of these songs have some form of like sort of a guitar feature or crescendo or something like that, where the guitar kind of takes over, like in a really creative, moving way, I think. So, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
Is that your favorite one?
No, I would say probably Breezing Up is my favorite song.
Okay.
I really like Cerulean as well. Next up, Marigold, for a long time was not one of my favorites at all.
Okay.
It's very different. I like it. I like it more so now than I think when I first got the album. It was kind of like one of those kind of skippers for me on tracks, but it's like sort of a dreamy, bouncy song. So I think it was just, my taste at the time, were a little different. I've got some other thoughts on you. What are your thoughts on this before I say some things?
The first thing I wrote down was Pocket Full of Posies. Nice call out on that one. Mm-hmm. That was neat. I like that. And then I wrote down, I like the lyric, crying yellow, raining green, singing blue. I just like that.
Nice.
That's very poetic, and it's also, I mean, when you're talking about colors, and I read an OCD book because I struggle with that, and I struggled with it a lot more when I was younger, and it was called Born on a Blue Day, and it was talking about how with some OCD people, colors, they have a life, they do
Oh
other
yeah.
things,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I liked
Yeah.
that singing blue. I just thought, oh, and crying yellow. Like, I mean, yellow is typically cowardly or something like that, if you're yellow. So when you're crying, you're being cowardly, you're being weak. Raining green, I'm not quite sure, but maybe that's growth. Rain is growth, green is growth. And then singing blue, singing the blues. I was like, oh, I could just read so much into this.
Yeah.
Fistful of daisies, a pocket full of posies or marigolds. Colors all collide now in meadows and in daydreams of golden blue. Crying yellow, raining green, and singing blue.
Maybe it wasn't anything like that, but I really like that. That's my
That's
favorite
what's
line.
beautiful about it, though. That's what's beautiful about it. And I have a quote from an article from around the time the album came out, and it's referring to that song. Okay. It has a little clip of the lyrics. She makes me crazy, like flowers make me crazy, my marigold, like a fistful of daisies or a pocket full of posies or marigolds. And then he has a quote from David. I think Michael Stipe once said, referring to the one I love, that when someone's in love, a love song is the most beautiful thing in the world. But when he's not, the lyrics can come off as trite and overdone. And then he said, I wrote this song when I was very much in love. So, but then it goes on to say, David Shelzel was a humanities major from Penn State, and he enjoys reading good literature and hopes that listeners will view his lyrics in the same vein. One of the greatest compliments I can receive is that my lyrics seem more like lines of a poem.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's very
now
poetic.
Knowing that, I just went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but this maybe I'm attributing too much to it, but now with the pocket full of posies, those were used to cut the smell from the Black Death from the people. So like that strong, overwhelming smell of flowers is covering up the dead relationship. It's like it makes you feel sick because now it's, what's underneath it. And it's not a good smell. It's not a like, oh, yay, a flower smell. It's not roses. He didn't say roses. He said posies and marigolds. Marigolds stink. I mean, they have a really strong.
They have a very strong odor.
Yeah. And if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, you really don't. I don't. I think marigolds are kind of smelly. So that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting too. When I first heard the line, like pocket full of posies, I was like, that song that they used to sing, right? Like ashes, all fall.
Yeah.
And that was like, we used to sing it when we were kids and stuff and didn't really realize what it was all
Let's
about.
play a little ditty about the black.
Yeah. And what are the ashes, like, oh, so.
We burned the bodies. All right.
I'd like to believe he put that in there as sort of like kind of what you were talking about, like sort of a contradiction, or what love can be. Like when you're in love, everything looks rosy and everything, you take all the positive from things, so the marigolds, you're even enthralled with the smell of marigolds.
Right? Yeah, because they're very pretty to look at.
But if you're not in love, you might be like, yeah, whatever.
That stench.
I don't know.
And this is the one that I put down originally. This tune is reminiscent of some of Alexander's music. And then, like I said, today, just as we were coming home, I'm like, that's the song that it makes me think of. This song right here. So that was exciting for me.
So what do you think of the song in general?
It wasn't my favorite just because of the tune. I'm more a smoother one, but with all the connections, I really like it quite a bit. So lyrics wise, really like it. Music wise, it's not in my top, but
yeah, same for me. Yeah, same for me. Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah. Then we jump back into a separate reality, which is really dreamy again. This one's a film. Okay. Yeah. I can understand you would say that. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't get anything from it. I'm like, huh. Okay.
Yeah. It seems to be pretty upfront with its meaning, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I jotted down some notes on this.
Okay.
Just some of them are just words. Like I put grief ? Knowing something, but being able to act on it or confront it. I put, we end up in situations that we never dreamed of. You know, and part of the lyrics are, you can't believe it, but here you are. You never dreamed it.
Oh my gosh.
I put it's a super dreamy song, very slow. So I mean, and I could understand how you would put it in that filler category.
Well,
I really can.
Here's the thing. That's why I just said feels like a therapy session almost, because having gone through widowhood and with my dad's recent death and helping my mom and talking with my mom quite often about being a widow and what she's dealing with. And maybe that's why I passed over this song so quickly, because it hit home too much. When you resaid those lyrics, you never dreamed it, but here you are. And I'm like, oh, my mom has said that over and over and over to me, because, you know, they were married 64 years, 63 years.
Oh my goodness.
And my dad was 88. And
they're like part of you, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, she was married at 19.
Part of the same person by that point. You're like, you know. Yeah.
And they had dated for 2 years. I mean, she's been with dad since she was 17. And she said to me over and over, she's like, I never dreamed that this would happen. We were supposed to die together. I don't know how to start over. I don't want to be here. I know that I'm here, but I just don't want it to be real. And so maybe that's I passed over that song because I couldn't deal with it.
Wow. That's I appreciate that insight, you adding that.
You can't believe it. You can't believe it. But here you are. Here you are. You never dreamed it. You never dreamed it. But here you are. And there you are. You see the one side, refuse to face it. You know the one side, but cannot live it.
You know, grief came to mind because that's one of the situations that I imagine you're in it and you understand intellectually what you need to do to move on, maybe on a certain level, but doing it's a different thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, the situation you're talking about, that grief is, you know, completely on one of the highest levels of grief. But everybody's got their grief things too, right? Change is loss, right? And everybody goes through changes and has grief. You know, it could be your kid is off doing something, living a life that's not good for them or whatever. And there's grief in there. You know, there's grief in your kid moving out, you know.
Exactly.
But I don't know. That's why I put that, because I was like, okay, any level of grief that seems to be like the thing where you're like, okay, I know. I wouldn't say you're paralyzed, but you're like, you know it, but it takes some time to get through that and to move on. I don't know. But having said that, musically, I definitely see how it could be a filler.
Yeah.
You know?
I saw a spelling. I'm a spelling nerd. And I've spelled this separate, SEPARATE.
I hate spelling that word. I always spell
I know.
it
I saw it spelled SEPERATE online. And I'm like, isn't that different? Isn't separate and the other one is separate? Or maybe they're spelled the same way.
Interesting.
But I'm like, if it is spelled with two E's, then it would be a separate reality.
Interesting.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to check that. I put a star on this to re-listen to.
I didn't even
do more research.
What's interesting is I spell that word wrong constantly because, you know, I work in a lab, right? So I'm a QC manager, and there's a test we have called a separation, you know, water separation, and I spell that word wrong all the time. At least in that context, it's supposed to be SEPARATE.
Yeah, that's how I've always seen it.
And I didn't even realize when I went to the Ocean Blue website, copied the song titles and lyrics over, and they have SEPERATE.
That's what I found online. And I was like, oh, that's spelled wrong. And then, because when I wrote it down, I put the two E's, and then I looked at it and I have a correction. I have it A. And then now I'm like, well, is separate and separate, are they spelled differently? English language is so jacked up.
I don't think so. I honestly believe they misspelled it.
Okay.
But maybe,
Wow.
I don't know.
Some producers' neck is on the line.
Yes, right. Whoever populated the Ocean Blue website needs to be axed right this
Yeah,
minute.
right? Jeepers.
But it's very dreamy. You can call it a
is.
filler, but it's also very
It's
dreamy,
pretty.
right?
Yeah, I don't want it to be cut at all.
Yeah.
I like it. So
I think I've kind of had that feeling of the song over the years, so I definitely get that. It was another one that was kind of like a skipper for a long time, I think, for me. Yeah. Okay. Then we have Mercury. This is the second most played song on Spotify from the album.
Really?
Yeah. According to number of plays.
I thought this was the only one that really had a different sound, and it ended up being the same, but it started out different. It started out more driving with the drums at the beginning. And if I'm wrong, it might be drums and keyboard, but I thought it was drums and guitar, an electric guitar, or was that the keyboard?
I think it's guitar. I know which part you're talking about. Yeah, I think it's a unique sound, though.
Yeah.
Whatever they did with the guitar there. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think it's guitar. I think you're right.
My son Elijah I don't know if I've told you that he's writing music. Did I tell you he's writing music?
Oh no, I knew he could play, and he played.
Yeah, he taught himself
some bread songs for you.
Yeah. He can play. He plays like every instrument, but he's really good on guitar.
So jealous.
I know. He's so talented and not doing jack with it. But anyway, moving on. So he's been sharing with us some of the songs that he's written, and he doesn't have lyrics to them yet. And so it's very electric guitar, and then his friend Josh on drums. I put a note. I'm like, I need to send this song to him and see if he and Josh could work it up. I'm sure they could. And I was like, that would be easy for him. The lyrics, though, would be hard for him to sing because he has such a deep voice. And I'm like, it'd be different coming from Elijah than this guy. But I wrote down, I love the lyrics. It's simple yet profound, and it reads like a poem. I get why it was more popular. So
yeah, me too. And it's kind of very relatable, I think, to everyone, definitely young people who are in high school or whatever. It kind of has some hints of like, I don't know if I want to say abuse, but like definitely feeling abused or discarded or whatever. Talks about being ripped into, then pasted back again, then crumpled up inside, then tossed aside. So it's like a tear down, build up, tear down type of thing.
This was really the most, I thought, the deepest lyrics wise. I was like, wow, what's going on?
Yeah. And then some of the comments I saw, they were like, yeah, it's not really clear what Mercury means and all this stuff. And I'm like, I really think it's just the volatility.
Yeah.
Being a lab guy, the mercury, in the thermometers, like it's very affected by the surroundings.
Yeah.
By the surrounding temperature, and it moves, changes easily. And so it's like, what's happening to you is up and down and all over the place. And it's very volatile. So anyway, I really like this song a lot. This was a skipper for me when I had the album, when I first had it for several years. And I just really like it now. When it says happened once, then it happened twice, then it happened thrice,
I thought that was
and now a fourth, and now a fourth. And I said, not everyone could get away with this lyrical stanza.
Exactly.
Because if you just read it, it's like, what in the world? But it works well there.
Mm-hmm. My thought on that lyric was, I was like, I watched Rocket Man, And
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
a
good.
while ago. That was
I
such a good
really
movie.
like that. Loved it.
And
Yeah.
but Bernie's lyrics written down on paper are ridiculous. But how Elton takes them and sings them makes them
Good
so
point.
profound and awesome. And so that mixture, and I was like, okay, this song, that lyric happened once, happened twice, happened thrice. And I'm like, okay, and now
Okay,
what?
you're pushing it. You're pushing it.
Yeah, I'm like, what the heck? But you know what? It works when you sing it. So
yeah, I can't imagine ever sitting down and writing that and being like, yes, I nailed it.
maybe I'll say thrice.
Yeah, exactly. But
Can I
he
do
made
a
it
fifth?
work.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. At least he
pushing
didn't
it.
put quadruple in there. He said fourth, so that's good.
Happened once and then it happened twice and then it happened thrice and now before you know that. Did you know that?
And then there's a couple parts, I think, where he's saying, you know that, like a question.
Mhm.
And I thought that was cool. I think it's kind of like something I read, I did actually agree with on this one, because I think it's kind of like when you're feeling that way, you're like, you want somebody, like, you know what I mean?
Validation.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm feeling like, oh, you want somebody to validate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, affirm and validate. So I don't know. Really great song.
Yeah.
Really great song. Then we jump into Questions of Travel. One of my favorite songs, and it just doesn't say a lot. I mean, it says a lot, but it doesn't. I mean, I don't know. I tried to pull my interpretations out of it, so I'll share
There you
those in a
go.
minute.
I had a question about it. My question about Questions of Travel was, is this a commentary of Americans that dream of traveling, but they don't actually go?
Maybe I didn't think about that, but
I wasn't sure.
maybe so. I put Americans, I feel like we have this wonderful country
Mhm.
that a lot of us haven't seen. We've seen bits and pieces of our own country.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, let's face it, America, you have like such a wide variety of environments and geology. We have pretty much all those things that those other places have.
And with Puerto Rico, we get a rainforest.
There you go. Yeah,
So
that's
there you
right.
go. They're not a state, but dang it, they belong to
Yeah,
us.
but we, yeah. What are they, a territory or something? What are they
They're
called?
a
Something
Commonwealth,
like
but yeah.
Commonwealth, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, but it's true, like you could probably spend the rest of your life like visiting places in our
Oh, yeah.
country
Yeah.
to see things you have not seen.
Mhm.
And yet I think there's sort of an excitement in the other.
Yeah.
So the other is London, Paris,
Yeah.
Germany. I think he said something about Grecian roads or something
Yes,
like
yes,
that.
yeah.
Chinese walls. And that stuff is cool. I mean, I want to go.
Yeah,
I'd like to go
same.
visit some of those places. But anyway, I went to that, philosophical side that he probably didn't intend at all. Like longing for what's not right in front of you. Like you want some,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I put dreaming of far off places, adventure the other.
Mm.
Like I said, the song just pretty much talks about different places to dream of visiting. But I really like it.
Yeah.
I love the guitar in it.
Yes, the guitar
He's sort
is
of
great.
thrashing on this guitar at certain parts, and it kind of fades out that way, like that hard guitar chord. What do you think of the song? Was this on your filler list? Or yeah?
No, not at all. The only one that I had on as a filler is, Falling Through the Ice, duh. But A Separate Reality is the only one. But now I have to re-listen to that. So that might come out of the filler. So
and like you said,
no,
even
I
the fillers, it wasn't like you disliked it or hated it. It's just
no. I thought they were cohesive. So
yeah. You remember when life was easy, Jamie?
Oh, I have a story by this one.
Was life ever easy? I'm not sure.
See, now
Easier?
I say that I wish life was easy again. And Derek always says, life hasn't been easy for me since 1973. I'm like, you were literally
Derek's
3 years
awesome.
old. Did you get it? He's
I
always
love
Mr.
it.
Famous.
I love it.
I was driving before you were out of diapers. And I'm like, you're a year older than me. I'm like, stop it. Golly.
Oh, that's great.
Not even a year, 11 months. I mean, come on. So, but he didn't have the same growing up that I mean, he had a much rougher
know.
growing up than I did,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
We've talked about
Um,
that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I do recall very easy times, and I very much enjoyed my childhood, and I clung to it. I did. I
Mhm.
clung to it for a long time. I was probably a pretty immature 16-year-old, but I didn't care. I didn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed with adulthood, so I was like,
So you appreciated it at the time.
I did. I was
Mm.
very cognizant. I think being the youngest, and my
Yeah.
sisters, and one in particular, living in the gutter basically for a lot of her time. And I was like, yeah, I'm not interested. And that was the accusation, between us. She's always like, you just live your head in the clouds and you're in your books and you live in a dream world. And I'm like, I much prefer it.
Yeah.
It's much better than what you're doing. So I'm like,
Right.
that's not a criticism for me. I'm good with
Yeah,
that.
better the dream world than the physical, tangible gutter.
Yes.
For sure. So
So I love this song. This was
I thought this song was
is
great.
top two.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One of my favorites on here. The first note I put was they're pulling out the sleigh bells, because at the beginning, I don't even know if you realized it. I've heard it so many times. There's like these bells they're shaking at the beginning
Let's
of the
hear
song.
those sleigh bells ringing.
Yeah. It sounds like sleigh bells. I'm pretty sure it's what it
Well,
is.
that's perfect, because that brings to mind Christmas, which is a great time. That's like childhood
Yeah.
Christmas and all that. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I
So they're
got
throwing that
one.
in there. Maybe that's like,
See,
hey, be thankful for the times you have right now. Like, right.
Yeah.
I think that is part of the song. I think part of it
Mhm.
is, appreciating what you have. It's easy to say, oh, I wish it was, go back to the good old days or go back to whatever.
Was a time when life was easy. My heart did soar for what the future store, and life it pleased me. But it's all gone now. It's all gone now. Gone away now. It's all gone now. It's all gone now. Gone away now. Far away. Far away. My life is changed, or have I rearranged what was my life? What once brought pride now seems oh so tried, and I'm scared. Catastrophe and calamity are the norm now. The past seems like some old forgotten dream.
I put this note, push and pull between wanting the excitement of not knowing what life will bring. There's an excitement in that, not knowing what's in store in life and what's coming up, and anything's possible. Wanting that, and then also needing that arranged control of life so it doesn't spiral out of control. Because it talks about rearranging life. My life, it's changed, or have I rearranged what was my life?
Love that.
Like, is it
Mhm.
life that's doing this, or is it me that's doing this?
Mm.
You know, it's like making the unpredictableness. Is that a word?
Oh, I like it. Yeah, it is now.
Unpredictableness. Made the unpredictableness of life predictable by orchestrating and shaping it into a comfort, you know, more of a
Ah,
secure thing. I think that's what we do as adults.
well, sure.
But then when we do that, then there's sort of that you've defined what it is then, and you've controlled what it is. So it's like, oh, what about the excitement of like accepting life's going to take us in places that we don't intend to go, and we have very little control. We have a very small area of control in life and what happens, and ultimately, really, we don't have any control. But
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't know. I thought this was really an interesting song. I got caught up in a lot of the stuff, like what once brought fright now seems oh so trite, and I'm scared. So he's talking about something that brought fright, but now that seems trite. So it's almost like I'm not afraid of that anymore, and I'm scared.
Yeah.
So am
Yeah.
I scared that I don't have that
I
feeling of fright, like
I
from not
took
knowing
that to
what's
be
coming?
that
That's
I
so
took that to
cool.
be I'm scared that I've lost that
Yes.
vulnerability.
Yes.
Because it's that my favorite line is catastrophe and calamity are the norm now. It's
Mhm.
almost like I'm becoming inured to it, and I don't want to be. I want to be back where it was innocent and I didn't have these things going wrong, and I don't want it to be, oh well, of course this is going to happen, and that's how life is. I want to still fear these things, and I really related to this song. This song was, like I said, I think this is my top one. It has a slightly ominous sound at the beginning, is what I said, different than the other ones, but then it reminds me of Cerulean, the song Cerulean, with the sound wise. But I was like, oh, I identify with this. Is my Achilles heel, is that I want to go back. I always want to go back, always, no matter what. Well, okay, not always, because there are some things I'm like, yeah, don't want to ever go back there again.
Yeah, I don't want to
But
go
I'm
through that
always
again.
looking in the past. And Derek is always looking to the future. And we're really bad at neither of us deals well with the present. We just
Oh,
really
wow.
struggle with
Yeah.
that. Because
Yeah.
he's always, well, in 5 years, or in a few months, and I'm like, would you just stop? And I'm like, man, it was so much better, when we had this, or the kids were here. And
So great.
he's like, yeah, but you need to focus on the future. And I'm like, why don't we just focus on the now? We're not good at that. We're horrible at
Yeah.
that. I don't focus on the now until it's the past.
Yeah, I'll focus
So,
on the now tomorrow. I'll
yeah,
focus on the now then.
yeah. There you go.
See, I'm very much in the now. I
Okay.
don't focus on the past very much, and I don't focus on the future. But there's definitely a negative side to that, to just being in the now only and just not thinking about that stuff, because it's a balance, right? You got to have a balance of all those things. I think you don't want to get stuck in the past, but you want to honor that and take something from it. And it's not like, okay, I want to be there. You can't go that far, like, oh, if I can only go back, right? But definitely you could take something positive, like, oh, there are some things you can take back. Like, remember, it was like this. That was something we went away from or moved away from. We should get back to that, right?
Yeah.
And in the future, you have to have some future vision and plan. So if you're only in the now, it's not good. I mean, that's where I spend a lot of time, and it's really great a lot of time, but it's not really great for like relationships and stuff like that, like making plans with people,
Yeah, and Derek is
because
always focused on that. And I think I passed that on to Elijah. He doesn't live in the past. He lives very much in the now. But unfortunately, that means that he's always just like putting out fires as he goes along.
right, yeah, that's what it turns
And like
into
Derek's like,
a lot of times.
we're constantly, you don't think ahead. And I was like, I do with certain things. I think way too far ahead. And then I'm like, yeah, I can't deal with that. So then I'm just gonna, let's reminisce,
Yeah, exactly.
And we need to pay bills. And I'm like, can we just deal with that?
Yeah,
later.
It's just like in college when you have the paper due, right? Let's wait.
Yeah.
I do my best work the night before. Trust me.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie Sideways?
Yes.
Okay,
That's the one with the wineries.
Yes.
Right?
We just watched that recently because
I love it.
My podcast, the Rewatchables.
Oh yeah, you told me about that. Yeah,
it's so much fun. And so I was like, I want to watch Sideways, and I never wanted to before. I didn't think it was a movie that I would like. I thought it was different. I thought it was like a comedy or something. I don't know why I thought that. And so we watched it, and the title of his book is The Day After Yesterday. Everybody in the movie
I
is
don't
like,
even remember that.
That's today.
Is it Paul Giamatti? That's his book in the movie. Okay, The Day After Yesterday.
That's in 2 boxes, yeah. And he titled The Day After Yesterday, and everybody's like, so today, and he's like, no, They're like,
I'll have to go
that's
back
what-
and watch it again. I thought it was really good.
yeah.
You get
So
so
that-
mad about Merlot.
Here.
Don't you give me from Merlot.
You know that what the rewatchable said that honestly and truly, the sales from Merlot dropped.
Yes. Yep.
They dropped because of that.
I
And what's the other
heard
one
that same thing.
you liked? That's
I
still a
don't.
top
Oh,
one.
Pinot Noir, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's so popular now because
Hysterical. I'm like, and I'm not a wine person. It all tastes like they would hate me. They'd be like, "Oh, this has a hint of," and I'm like, "It tastes like vinegar." Yeah.
whatever.
So does it taste
Yeah.
like vinegar? I don't get any woodsy rose. I taste vinegar.
Funny. So yeah, the day
that
after
made me think of
yesterday.
that when we talked
That's
about
today. That's funny.
That's today.
That's great. So yeah, so I love this song. We both love this song. You feel like this may be your number one?
I think it is. I had
On
another
the
one that
album?
was my first one until it came to When Life Was Easy. And I'm like, oh
Nice.
yeah, this is
And it
gonna
got
have to be
dethroned.
Yep.
What was your other one?
Ballerina Out of Control.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, which we'll get to pretty quickly here. I did have one more note on this one. He's talking about all this stuff through the song about when life was easy and, all the different aspects of that. And then it comes to a part where he says, but when I look into your eyes, I forget myself and my size. I'm alone with you on the sea, on the crystal sea. And then like this awesome like crescendo of guitar comes in, right? And we're back on the sailboat. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
So he pulls himself back onto the sailboat on the crystal sea. He reminds himself that the piece of life that we have control to arrange is very small, but he's with someone on this big, huge sea. And there's both excitement and comfort in that. At the beginning and breezing up, he talked about all my friends,
Yeah.
So, we're together in this. I'm big on talking about your world, which is the people that surround you, that touch you, your network, right? That's your world.
Sphere of influence.
That's what I always talk to my kids about. And sometimes myself, when there's the feeling of like, I don't matter. What do I contribute? Your world is the people you touch and you affect that. And it's so easy to do different things to affect that. You don't have to be some movie star. You don't have to be some rock star. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to be the president of a company. Like you're affecting and changing your world. Sorry, I'll get down off that now.
That's great. That just brought up three more things for me. That last line, the first time I listened to it, I read it as a relationship. The second time I listened to it, after all the other biblical references, I was like, oh, he's talking about God. God is bringing him back
could
to
be.
grounding. And I was like, okay,
yeah.
so that works for me. So I was like, okay, so that aspect I brought into it. And again, on an aside with that, recently I saw this sweatshirt online that said, motherhood is my ministry. And I sent the link to my daughter and I said, you need this. And she's like, I really want that because she's struggling with that whole, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
I'm 26. I have 4 kids and right now she's home.
That's hard on a mother, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Like a
especially
young mother.
Her being so active and she's a very anxious kind of person.
Yeah.
And so she's always calling with different things. And she's like, oh my gosh, she's like freaking out and stuff and really anxiety ridden. And so she's like, oh, thank you, Mom. This makes me feel so much better. Because I'm like, you do have a ministry. You're raising the next generation. That is your ministry. You don't have to be changing the world. You are with your kids. Yeah. And that's what's important. And then the third thing that just came up is what you said, to influence people and make a difference. You don't have to be. My dad never went to college. He wasn't a great student. He didn't start out like his adulthood doing great things. He went into the service. He got married and divorced very quickly and was drinking and just, not doing well. And when he and my mom got together, he knocked all that off and got his head on straight. And that's what he did. He just worked. He worked and he raised 4 girls and he worked and he helped people. And I cannot tell you the number of people that came to the house to see him while he was dying and how many people he encouraged while he was dying. And I'm like, that was his ministry. My dad spiritually influenced more people than most ministers that I know, just because of how he lived. And so I was like, this song and my parents, they gave us a really good life. And I really credit them for that. I had a really, really good childhood. And I think you do take that for granted most of the time until you get out and you realize, like meeting Derek. And I'm like, holy crap, you had a horrible childhood. And John, my first husband, he didn't have a great childhood. And I'm like, wow, am I the only one? I'm like, and I'm not, but more often than not, people had difficult things.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate that my parents made that a possibility. And I'm like, and I feel like that's my goal, was raising Elijah, to give him that stability and to give my other kids that stability, and to give my grandkids now. We want them to have that kind of, something to look back on and being like, that was good. That was good.
Yeah.
Things were solid. And I don't know.
It 100% makes a difference, when kids go through life and get older, and the relationships they form, the romantic relationships they have.
Oh, gosh,
just
yeah.
that legacy,
Well, that's going to wrap it up with the first half of Jamie and I's conversation on the Ocean Blues Cerulean album. Sorry, that was a little bit of an abrupt ending there, but that's just kind of how the chat and the recording worked out. So we will be picking up in the next episode with the planetarium scene, and we'll continue through the rest of the tracks on this album, scrutinizing them, picking them apart, and giving our interpretations. So I'm hoping you will come back and join us for that. In the meantime, I really just wanted to remind everyone, including myself, that you matter. You matter to your world, your orbit. You affect so many people and so many things and are affected by them, and you are an essential and important part. So don't ever forget that. I'm kind of struggling tonight with feeling lonely and feeling a little bit out of control. And so I wanted to remind myself and everyone out there that you matter, you're important, people love you. And wait a minute, this is starting to sound a little bit like a Stuart Smalley daily affirmation. I think it's kind of interesting. I used to watch the Stuart Smalley skits on Saturday Night Live, the daily affirmations, and ridicule them and laugh so hard. And it seems these days I'm doing a lot of these self-affirmations and self-talk. So don't forget it, people. You're good enough, you're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you. And here's the man Stuart Smalley himself, followed by the band Whimsical doing a cover of Ocean Blues Cerulean. You can check out Whimsical on Bandcamp. Until next time, take care.
Okay, this has not been my best show, but that's okay, because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.